Hello, creativepreneurs. I really like that term. In fact, I think I want to use it from now on during my vlogs because it's very appropriate, especially when there are people who do more than one thing. Before we get started, I want to give a disclaimer, which is that I by no means claim to be an expert on anything that I discuss in my vlogs. I just feel that some of my personal experience could maybe be helpful to others who are walking a similar path. I don't know if I've said that before, but I want to say it quite clearly now as we move into this topic. So today I want to talk about boundaries, but more specifically, I want to talk about boundaries in your professional life. It seems to be neglected when it has to do with business, and I think it's really important, and especially for those of us that are creativepreneurs working multiple jobs or juggling a lot of different interests and talents and stretch ourselves in so many different directions, trying to create balance and give enough focus to each thing that we do in our professional life. I have experienced this primarily when I stopped working a 9-to-5 job. When you're working a 9-to-5 job or you're working for someone else, there's a little bit of relief in the sense that when you go home, you can kind of let the day go. But when you're working for yourself, or you're juggling a lot of different types of interests, maybe doing a day job, but then writing at night because your ultimate goal is to be a screenwriter, or going off to rehearsal after work because you're in a play, you've got a 4 or 5 hour second job ahead of you that evening. These kinds of things tend to really overstretch us. It's difficult when you have to be self-motivated and you're responsible for your own success as a creativepreneur. It's difficult to let the day go. You tend to think about your art or your craft and you take it with you wherever you go. Finding a way to create balance where you know what those boundaries are for you is extremely important. The first step is to get very clear with yourself what your needs are and communicate them to the people you're working with, either the people on your team or with the client. Now, this concept challenges a lot of societal beliefs that we have, like the customer is always right, or you should cater to the client. We grew up with these beliefs that in order to be successful, we have to adhere to these tenets of catering to the client. If you live by those tenets alone, you will sacrifice your own well-being and success. Being successful doesn't mean that you sacrifice your own values and your own work ethic for somebody else. If you make a habit of doing that early on in your career, then you won't sustain a career. Or you may have a very successful career, but be a very miserable person. So what I have learned to do as I've walked my path is to get very clear with myself on what kind of life I want to have. And that means, what are my values? What are my expectations? What are my needs? And more importantly, what does integrity mean to me? When you're clear about who you are and what you're about, and that effectively then communicates to other people and they're clear on it, then you begin to attract people into your life that are a match. That means not just collaborators, but also employees, subcontractors, even the clientele. Those people that vibrate energetically to who you are and what your values are will come into your life. Now, what may happen when you commit to this? You may have to turn projects down. You may have to turn people away because, quite frankly, you don't want to work with them. And that's okay. It will challenge a mentality that our society has laid on us creativepreneurs. The whole general mass belief consciousness about being artistic and living a life in a creative way equates to we have to starve. And I just don't believe that. I don't believe in the starving artist mentality. So it's going to challenge you to drop that. It's going to be scary because there are going to be moments where you're going to need the money and you're going to want to take that job, or you're going to want to take that client when everything in your being is telling you not to, because you just know in your gut that they're going to be a problem and drain you of precious energy and resources. But I am going to tell you that in the short term, it may feel uncomfortable, but in the long term, it is the best decision for you to make to put yourself on the path of success in your life and in your career. So you have free will. You can make whatever choice you want. And within every choice, therein lies a million different ways that that choice can take you. So if every choice that you make leads to another set of possibilities, then you're doing yourself a disservice if you believe if you don't take that one opportunity, then no other one will show up. It's just not the case. Sometimes you do have to turn things down because they just don't resonate with you, with who you are, with what you're about, with the kind of artist you are. And you know what? That's okay. You've got to have the courage to be able to do that. In the short term, you may feel like you're going to lose out on making that financial gain or getting the opportunity to work with that prestigious group of people. But in the long term, it may be the best decision to make. To illustrate my point, let's go with one example here. I've had many experiences where I took on something because I really wanted it to be the experience that was going to be a game changer for me in my career. And against my better judgment, I went into a project or a job and I made those compromises. I compromised my values or my beliefs or my work ethic or my comfortability in the process. And I've got to say that every single time I tried to make that concession, it always turned into some kind of disappointment or a disaster. That I was miserable during the whole process of being in that work environment or in that job. The point is, I never got comfortable in the job once I made those concessions. And the job never turned out to be the great experience that I thought it would be. I'm not saying that you should be this uncompromising person who's not willing to negotiate or make concessions. That's not what this is about. Here's an example. You have a policy in your business. We work like this. We work like this because it's tried and true that it's effective. It's effective for our workflow, and it's effective for you as the client because it makes everyone's intentions clear, and we can produce the best possible product or service for you because of this policy. And it doesn't matter who walks in your door, because you know from experience that that is how you can be the best at doing what you do. So therefore, that is your policy and you need to stick by it. Now, unless your client has extenuating circumstances that put you in a position where you both have to agree to make certain changes to the policy in order to accommodate them, then there's no other reason why you should compromise or change your policy. And I guess that's the point that I'm trying to get across in a practical way. As a creativepreneur, how do you run your business? How do you run your life so that you can have a life? But I'm also trying to get it across to you in an esoteric way as an artist. It's a lesson that's been brought to my attention on both these levels, the practical and the esoteric, because I've worked in the industry in both ways. It's interesting because when I'm producing and I'm managing or leading a team of people to effectively create a certain result, but when I'm doing that and I am stretching that muscle, I am getting so much clarity on how to effectively do that in my artistic life, in my growth, or in my craft. And I'm lucky because I work in a creative capacity. in everything that I do. So it's not hard for me to make the crossover to see that what I do as a producer or as a creativepreneur in my business, I can do for myself as an artist in my craft and as a way of growing myself artistically. When I first started out in my business, trying to build my brand and get clients, I made a lot of mistakes. In my artistic life and building my artistic career, I made a lot of mistakes there too. And all of those mistakes were all to do with having weak boundaries. So that's why I just want to reiterate that it's so important to be very clear on who you are and what you're about. Know thyself, my old adage that I love to say over and over and over again, but it's so true. It's something to live by because it will bring you ultimate happiness and it will bring you ultimate success. Whenever I compromised myself and the way I like to work or the way things felt right for me and I didn't follow my instincts, it never led to something great. It never led to the opportunity of a lifetime or more success. It just led to a lot of uncomfortability and a lot of problems. This is what I wanted to really drive home today or this month. I hope that you guys got something out of it. And as always, I enjoy sharing my thoughts with you, and I hope you'll stay tuned and like my channel and subscribe. And I look forward to the next time.